Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday Tips and Tricks. We have quite the interesting topic for you. Before we dive right in, I'd love to hear a little bit more about where you're joining us from. So Darren, Ray, Jerry, Don, there's a chat window up in the top right-hand corner. You're welcome just to drop a line and tell us where you're joining us from and maybe what you're looking to learn on today's podcast. And Mitch, why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of really what the information we're looking at today will be?
Yeah, so we've been talking to a lot of people lately, a lot of companies lately, Ryan, that their marketing seems more like a tug of war than really a marketing machine to drive revenue. That's really what marketing is about.
Right.
And so that's what we're going to talk about, is how to turn that tug of war around where, all your different channels of advertising are pulling against each other. And even within social media, your posts day to day are pulling against one another. Turn that around and turn it into a more smooth process to ultimately make it more effective.
Yeah. So as you're speaking about that, we see this all the time in almost every conversation we have with our clientele base, right? Of how do we really create a cohesive message so that our marketing dollars are being best used throughout multiple platforms, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to dive right in. Mitch, why don't you start us and give us some context? Give us additional context and some thoughts of really what you've seen and how, in your opinion, we can go about that, and then I'll dive in with you.
Okay. So a couple examples. We'll just talk about one example on social media. Then we've seen companies, and we work with companies that have a person that's in charge of social media and maybe a marketing director, whoever that person is within that company. But then there's many employees within the company that have their ideas. They want to give their input. And so they start sending stuff to the marketing director or the person in charge of social media and say, hey, post this today, or hey, post this today, or post this today. And it just kind of becomes kind of messy. And then you see that as you look at their post day to day, you see that it's just all different. There's no congruent message. They're not driving towards anything. It just becomes messy, and it's by no fault of one person. It's just by fault of everyone having their good ideas, and all of the ideas are good, but they need to be organized into the right place and the right time. That's one example.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that so often with our clients. It's funny because we'll have companies that are doing $300,000 a month in revenue, other companies that are doing $500,000 a month in their business, even some that are doing $100,000, $150,000 a month in their company. And the strategy that more or less, they don't have a content strategy. They don't have someone that's directly over the flow process and the storytell process. And as a result, like you said, Mitch, there's a level of incompleteness, if you will, in how it's being presented. And, as a business owner, I think one of the things that we hardly ever focus on is, what is the message I'm going to share with my audience? We just, as a business owner, we just think, well, how can I make more money? And I think a lot of times we disconnect the two. We disconnect how do I create more success for my business from what is the message that I'm going to get across. And in today's environment, that messaging, the storytell aspect of building a business, the emotional intelligence, drawing people into you and making the connection with you, is the key to really articulating the message and generating more revenue. So it's almost like this whole world of reverse engineering, right? We think, how do we make more money for our business? How do we create more success for our business? And the traditional ways of doing advertising are, well, let me just throw a radio advertisement or a billboard advertisement or a TV advertisement out or a mailer and hope something sticks. Well, today's environment, it's so much different than that. We have to, like I said, you have to reverse the engineering process or reverse engineer the process and say, okay, what is the end goal? And if the end goal is to make more money, what are the things that I need to do in order to make that more money? And a lot of times it's just, I need to take a step back and see what the messaging is that's going out to the audience. Because if I don't have the attention of an audience, I'm never going to generate more revenue for my business. But if I do have the attention of my audience, then I can extrapolate that attention to whatever product, service offering that might look like to really create success. And I think a lot of times people take a ready, fire, aim approach to building a business, in the fact that they go out and they create a product and then they go sell it to a deaf or a dead audience. People that aren't hearing what they have to say, or are not seeing or not understanding what it is they're trying to bring to light. And the minute that you do that, it creates a world of frustration for your business, because now you're in a place where you thought that you had a successful approach and it's not working anymore. So that level of frustration and discouragement increases in your own mind. And that's where a lot of people quit. That's where a lot of people quit building a business and walk away from, in our case, especially in the world of social media, where they walk away from this world of social media because they think, I don't have, they think that social media is another leverage point, like a billboard, that if I just throw something up, people are going to come to me. And they forget the work that's associated with it. So Mitch, when we talk to our clients and we talk about this element of work and how you can't really just find a social media manager to outsource it to because you don't have the same level of authenticity in the process, what's the first step? What's the first step for a business, and how do they begin that process of really defining what works?
Well, the first step that we take is, are you getting an echo?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. I'm not anymore either. I was getting an echo for a minute. Sorry. So the first step that we take is really talk to them about what are some of their core values, what are some of their core beliefs, what are 4 or 5 things that their customers care about other than just their business, and then put those things in a brainstorm diagram. And you and I, Ryan, talk about it in the sense of, like in elementary school, then you made those spider diagrams for a story you were writing. It's the same thing. We're making a story on social media. And then that gets put into a content calendar. And then this is an extremely good way to organize as a content calendar. So now let's go back to that same example I was sharing, the marketing director or the social media marketing person in-house. They get ideas sent to them from all the different people. But now they have a place that they can put it. They can say, okay, that's a great idea, Tommy, from maintenance. Let's put that next month when we have a week that's going to be talking about something relevant to that. That's right. And so, the people that have their great ideas, they get their voice heard. They get their pictures included. If they take pictures of what they're working on in the business, it gets included, but it doesn't get all, what's that new word we learned, Ryan? Bumfuzzled. Bumfuzzled, yeah.
That's right. It doesn't get bumfuzzled, which means confused in the process. And I think, one of the hardest parts about being in the world of social media in general for you as a business owner is defining whether or not you need to spend time there and trying to figure out, okay, is the content that I'm sharing, or should I create content first and foremost? But is the content that I'm sharing, is it giving me value long-term for my business? Right? Is it beginning? And I think a lot of times, especially in the world of social media, we don't recognize that, it's a lot like, okay, 3 or 4 years ago, we were doing this, right? We were advertising on traditional media. And even when the radio first came out, it was typically the first person to market was the person that created that success. So the first person that implemented this radio advertising strategy killed it. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with a mortgage lender, and he said we were using radio ads on a specific channel, and we were killing it back in the day. Well, that's fine, because that's where the attention was. So now you have to figure out where the attention of the consumer is and how to shift that messaging to get in front of those people. And I see this all too often, Mitch, and maybe you see this as well as I do, but there's not very many companies out there that are really capitalizing on what Facebook ads really have to offer today. And it's unfortunate. And why is it unfortunate? Because Facebook ads are getting more expensive. I mean, quite frankly, Facebook ads are becoming more and more expensive in the marketplace, and they're really not, they're not giving as much value as they used to because there's a lot more noise. I mean, if you look at your news feed on Facebook, you'll see exactly, I see personal coaching stuff all the time. Not that I've ever purchased any personal coaching, but because of my online behavior is that I get advertised at or to. But most of that's advertised at and not spoke with. And when I make a connection with an ad set, it's typically someone that's speaking my language, that's speaking with me versus speaking at me. So as part of this whole process, we have to identify, okay, if we know who our target demographic is, what are their needs versus what are the core values that we want to push on them? And Mitch said, we identify 3 or 4 values, but we don't position the context behind those values as, let me show you how cool these values are. It's, how can I reverse engineer the process so people will be attracted to me based on the value proposition that I'm giving to them? So if I'm going to, let me share my screen with you guys really quick. Mitch, if you want to send me, here we go. So inside of a brainstorming diagram, like Mitch said, we have more or less, let me zoom this in a little bit. Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah.
So if I were to zoom this in a little bit, oh, that's going the wrong way. So in this context, we have, this is for one of our clients, and they're in the corn maze space, and they say basically, here's what we want to articulate: the message of family, the message of bringing work colleagues out to create memories with, couples to create memories. Their whole concept, their whole vision statement is create memories with the people that matter most. So if I'm looking this and I'm thinking from a traditional methodology perspective, I might take pictures of family and run an ad set against that. But that may not be the proper message. That may not be what attracts people to it, right? A static image ad of a family that I pulled from Pixabay may not create the same amount of value as the same type of picture where they're on the actual location facility and experiencing that, because then from a family perspective, we're showing that there's time together and experiences. We're showing that there's purpose behind the process. Versus saying that, we're helping them experience that digitally. Does that make sense, Mitch?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
It's really different because versus a billboard and versus different types of advertising, you really can create these types of authentic stories. And those do have a lot more impact. It's incredible the different impact that they have when it is an authentic picture taken on site with your business, and really showing behind the scenes, showing the experience, allowing people to experience it with you before they come on site.
Let me show you a pretty interesting let me see if I can find it. There was a really cool commercial that came out. Oh, it's probably a year ago. Let me show you a commercial and maybe give you some insights onto how to best communicate with people. And I'm going to blow this up, and hopefully you guys can see this okay. So let me share this with you here for a minute.
It was my choice.
Can you guys see this okay?
And now I will question myself for the next few weeks, maybe months.
Yeah, it's coming through pretty good.
Okay.
We had an option of 2 pathways to walk, and they led to 2 doorways. It was a bit confronting, actually, to be honest. to see these big signs and feeling like you had to choose and be self-conscious of how you perceive yourself and perhaps if it lines up with how the rest of the world perceives you.
I went through the average door.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I didn't even hesitate.
漂亮对我的概念来说，就是像明星那种遥不可及的那种。我走的是一般。
Mas eu acho que é mais porque eu me arrependi da escolha, porque era diferente do que eu vivo, é diferente do que eu sou.
Am I choosing because of what's constantly bombarded at me, what I'm being told that I should accept, or am I choosing because that's what I really believe?
I walked into that door which said average and I didn't feel really good after that because obviously I had rated myself average and nobody else.
Todos os dias eu passo pela porta comum e ontem foi um dia único e eu optei por passar pelo bonita.
I wanted to go through the average door, but my mum just pulled me over to the beautiful door.
It was quite a triumphant feeling. It was like telling the world, I think I'm beautiful.
I just wish more young women realized it.
要是再给我一次机会走那扇门的话，我觉得我应该会选很美的扇门。
I think I would walk through the beautiful door.
Acho que a porta bonita tá completamente aberta para mim.
Maybe I could walk in that door.
You can. Next time I look in the mirror, I will see somebody really beautiful looking back at me.
Okay, so it keeps going a little bit more and just, similar stuff, but the concept behind it is it's meeting the needs of their target demographic. So again, this is Dove, it's the body wash company, and they're bringing to light. And if you look at what's happened with this, if I shrink this down, you can see that there's been over 8 million hits to that one video because the story that's associated meets the feelings and the emotions of their target demographic. So they're changing the paradigm and their messaging to meet the target demo. They're not just saying, oh, here's Dove and here's what the product does for you. It's a storytell play that really builds value long-term for those people that are associated with it. And so that's what you develop out. You develop out, okay, what are the core foundational values and how can we best associate those core foundational values to share our message in a way that builds value for those people that are connected to us. Does that make sense? Mitch, what are your thoughts? Jerry, Herman, Darren, Kim, Claudia, Ray, what are you guys' thoughts about that?
I think it really does change the connection to that brand. In that example, Dove, then people are able to start having just a different approach, a different connection with Dove. And it's not because Dove said we have the best shampoo, it's the smoothest, it makes your hair the shiniest. I don't know the benefits of Dove, but this allows people to connect with the brand. And then I would just add the next step is, okay, you have those core values and you organize those core values into like 1 month at a time to make it more congruent and not like a tug of war. I'm sure with Dove, they actually ran this type of campaign for a long time because there's another video where they did a similar type thing about the difference between what we think of ourselves versus what others think of us. And so they kept along that same thread for multiple videos, multiple marketing pieces. And I'm sure they have it on YouTube, clearly. I'm sure they put it on Facebook.
Yeah, it's this one right here, this Dove Real Beauty Sketches. That's the other one, right? Is more beautiful than you think.
Yeah. And so they had this whole theme that they went along with. And in their case, they probably put it on TV as well.
Yep.
And so they're congruent across all channels.
That's right.
And so that they got a lot of impact. You know, if people see it on YouTube, they see it on TV, they see it on Facebook, that's 3 touch points. And then they see it on your website. That's a lot more powerful than if they saw this video on YouTube and then they saw a video about doves, like literally the bird, on Facebook. You know, that's just confusing, and it doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah, if you were to throw a product-based ad set associated with this, people would be extremely confused until they were further down that funnel. So that, guys, that's what we wanted to talk about and share with you today is as you take the concepts and build this brainstorming diagram, or some people call it a storyboard, or some people call it a mapping diagram. As you build that out, then you can take the infrastructure of this and throw that into a calendar, a content calendar that gives you even more value long-term, because then it can streamline the process of execution for your own social media value build. And as you do that, what happens is it builds connection, and it demands attention, if you will. And as that attention is demanded from your target demographic, then that's where the revenue comes. Because people only do business with people that, you know, they say that people do business with those who they know, like, and trust. And I get that. But I think in today's environment, it's a little bit different. People do business with those people and those companies that they have an emotional connection to. And that's the real value, is how do you provide that emotional connection through authenticity so that long-term it builds additional value for those people that you're connected to. So, Mitch, any last thoughts that you wanted to add in there?
No, not today.
Great. Well, thank you for those of you that were with us. Again, we do these every Tuesday. Today was a little bit different. We normally dive in and talk about tactical approaches, but we wanted to talk a little theory so that we can give you better understanding of how you can best start. So if I'm a new business owner and I'm in the health and wellness business, for instance, I want to define what it is that those people want me to understand about them, and then share messages that connect with them. Or if I'm in the real estate business, what's a homeowner looking for, and how do I best make the connection to those homeowners? And that's the way to do it. That's the way to really build that value, by connecting and sharing with them things that make the most sense to them, and not just the sense that it makes to you as a business. So thanks for being on with us, guys. And we will be back again next week, same time, same place. Bye for now.